when you're working with people that truly love cinema, like the real cinephiles, you'll spend days just talking about stuff that no one will ever see or get in the film. But
Yeah.
you as filmmakers know that you've put this attention into it and this detail into it. There will be people that see it, of course. There's
Right.
nothing I love more than films when there's Easter eggs throughout the color palette and that are foreshadowing the narrative beats of something that's going to happen later on.
Good day, filmmaker Jordan Murphy Doidge from the brilliant film CLOUT. How are you today, Jordan?
I'm very well. Just getting geared up for our US premiere at Hollyshorts today. It's in a few hours' time. So we're just looking forward to that. We're out currently in Los Angeles with the
That should
filming.
be so exciting. Normally, I ask people where they start from filmmaking, but I want to talk about the film first because it's so exciting what you have. So it premieres today at Hollyshorts, as you mentioned, and then you have it working with schools. You have a UK premiere for it, which I feel is rare for a short film to have that much reach. So can you tell listeners and viewers what they should expect to see when they watch Clout, and then why it's resonated with so many people to have such a big premiere today and then going forward?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Look, first of all, we've been very lucky on this journey. It's been very hard to make this film. Subject matter has been very important to us from the very beginning. The kind of origins of this story was very much centered around the kind of negative impact I was experiencing of social media with my younger siblings. And so felt there was a real issue that needed to be addressed. And so since then, I think that Adolescence, the success of that show, the Netflix show Adolescence, I think it's up for 13 Emmys now, has really carved a path for this very important message. There's a lot going on. There's a great author called Jonathan Haidt that wrote a book called The Anxious Generation. It feels very zeitgeisty right now. Politics is being addressed a lot, both over here in the UK, but it is on a global scale. And so Adolescence has given us this fertile ground to continue this really important message. And so when we were developing this project, we got a charity partner involved called Family Lives. That was
Right.
great because it really helped us get the production on the go. It opened a lot of doors. It made the conversations much easier with schools, and it just gave it a real the whole project this kind of social impact narrative. And so then, since we've completed the film, we've brought on 4 more charity partners, leading charities in the UK. One of which is actually a partner of Adolescence. It's called Into Film. Into Film is great for us because what it does is it's a streaming service that is directly streamed into schools. So it means the very people that we wanted to reach from the beginning are going to see this film, which is young people. I feel there's a very powerful opportunity for us to listen to young people more. So I feel the narrative should be driven from them rather than professionals or teachers or parents. I think that they've got a lot to say about this. We actually filmed a behind the scenes film and they're so articulate because they're dealing with this stuff every day. We're adults in the real world, like the playground politics that exists, that swirl of just anxiety daily about having to use these social media platforms, but a lot of them don't really want to use it. And then you've also got big tech that are crafting these scary algorithms to just monopolize our kind of attention. So, yeah, there's a much wider narrative kind of problem going on here, but in the
Right.
small ecosystem of our film and how we feel it's important, we've been very lucky to partner with a UK distributor called Everyman. Everyman is like a boutique cinema. They've got, I think, 53 locations across the country.
That's awesome.
Right. And they're so special. It's a really intimate setting. It's a cinema that's been built by cinephiles. So you've got these beautiful like
Really?
sofas that you sit on. You can order food service. They even have a personal message at the beginning of the film where they introduce it. It's a really special experience. And so to be able to share this film with them, it feels almost dream come true. I've loved this cinema for a long time. And it's all come about to answer your question. Sorry. They have a kind of independent impact initiative called Every Man Beyond. And so they provide opportunities for independent filmmakers to share their movies on the big screen because it's very difficult to do that, especially for a short film. And so I feel like because of the social
Exactly.
narrative of our film, the timing, because it's so relevant, We've been very lucky to secure a 6-month tour with them, which will be touring across the country, Q&A with myself and the cast and crew.
Amazing.
Yeah, extremely exciting.
So you answered this next question a bit by talking about it from your siblings' experience. But one of the things I thought about when I watched the film was the director's age, right? There's certain directors that wouldn't be able to relate to the topic simply because they don't have any knowledge about what a kid's life is like. And then to some degree, an actor like Archie Yates brings his own gifts to the experience. But it takes a director who understands that experience to be able to direct a film like that. Do you have a general thought process about what kind of material is available to a director? If I came to you and said, Jordan, direct about a retiree who's on his second divorce, you might not be connected with that material in a way that this material might connect with you. So, what kind of pathway does a director have of material that they can connect with in some authentic way?
Yeah, the saying always goes, write what you know, right? Or
Exactly.
draw from personal experiences, which I guess I was. If I saw an issue, I saw a problem and I wanted to address it, but try and address it in a format of telling or crafting story around it. And when we were developing this concept, a fable is always a great way to try and tell a story, as a lot
Mm.
of us relate and are familiar with fables, as we have been for hundreds of years. And The Boy Who Cried Wolf struck me as a very powerful metaphor for what social media is. We're all living these highlight reels of our lives. And so we decided to tell a story within that kind of fable of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And we drew heavily from a film called Stand By Me, originally a book by Stephen King, The Body. And it's kind of like a coming of age story about four boys that go into the woods. And the whole reason why they go into the woods is to try and get their picture in the school paper. And on the journey, they learn a lot about themselves. But it's funny, our film is the modernized version of that. These kids are wanting to go and film a dead body in the woods, but to go viral. So rather than the school paper or whatever, they're trying to chase clout through social media. And so, actually, to answer your question, it's social media exists and is encroaching on all of our lives. And so, I feel everyone has got something to say about it. And so, as a director or a filmmaker or a storyteller, you try and tell that story in a way that's going to relate to as many people as possible. And so, we really wanted to craft a story here that wasn't just, we wanted it to be accessible to everyone. So, both parents, teachers, professionals, and young people. And the reason for that is to spark meaningful dialogue amongst everyone so they can have an experience of watching this film, but go away and actually have a very mature conversation about the impact of the film on them and make them address their own relationships with social media and see what, explore their own perspectives a little more and a little deeper. And so this film stands a great opportunity to do that, especially with Everyman and the Q&A tour, because if we are getting parents and children or young people to attend these screenings, they're going to have a very serious conversation when they leave that cinema amongst themselves as a
Yep.
family. They're going to take it home with them. And so to have a lasting kind of impact with parents and their children, I think is a really compelling feat.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing. Jordan, how did you find out you had a talent in filmmaking? Did you discover it early on, or was it later in college or something?
Yeah, less about filmmaking. I feel like this is like the first time I've ever made a film, and so it feels very new to me. And like, we've only had one
That's wow.
public screening of this film, so I think more than anything, I just feel like I've probably been a storyteller for a very long time, and what's probably influenced that, anyone that tells stories, it's like just the life in which they've lived and the experiences that they've had. I guess it's more about the confidence of telling those stories because everyone has a story to tell. But yeah, I guess love of cinema has followed me throughout my whole life. I have an annual thing with my mum, which is really sweet, and it feels very special. Is where we watch the kind of extended Lord of the Rings once a year because it just takes us to another world. But then, from a very young age, I've been watching a lot of films with my dad, and we'd go to Blockbusters and we'd rent a big studio film, but he'd always get a wild card, which would be foreign cinema or anime or something like that, and probably far too graphic for me to be watching at that age. That being said, because of those early experiences when you're too young, you get so thrilled and excited by it. It leaves a lasting impact and imprint on you. And as I've gone through life, I've just always had this affinity to stories and films. My favorite thing throughout all of uni was to go to the cinema on my own and just like really tune into a film. I remember watching Let the Right One In. I think it's Swedish, maybe Danish. Vampire love story about two young people fall in love, and she's a vampire and he's becomes her helper. Anyway, it's a beautiful film. If you haven't seen it, I'd strongly recommend it. But
I
like,
haven't.
yeah, I'd strongly recommend. They did an American remake, which I don't think is quite as good as the original, like many. Um,
As usual, right?
as usual, yeah, yeah. But yeah, a love of cinema. I'm sure you're the same, right? Like you must love films and love movies, and so to get the
100.
opportunity to
Yeah.
do it, it's the ultimate dream, really. But as hard as it is, making films is a nightmare. Independent cinema, mate, it's very high focus, problem solving, very stressful, managing lots of personalities and doing your best to tell the story the best way you can. And financially, it's crippling. But you get there because yes, it's family style. You band together. It's like a kind of, you're like pirates.
But wouldn't you say that your brand work, so your niche luxury brands, can't you say the same thing about that? If I imagine it's not easy. They roll up the set and they're just, yeah, Jordan, do whatever you want. I'm sure the same. You're being maybe modest about this. The same sort of pressures that you felt on Clout, you feel daily, weekly on brand work, right? And it's similar
Yeah,
pressure.
definitely. I think, again, it comes down to prep. The more you prep,
Yeah,
the better it's usually going
more
to be.
ready you are.
Yeah, the more
Yeah.
ready, but also just about, I feel it's just like creative language, being able to just be creative and to yeah, to be able to just explore creativity. And I feel like the commercial world is very different. A lot of the time, you're managing clients more than anything, and so if you can keep the client happy, everyone's happy. So that's a large part of the skill when it comes to kind of commercial work. I find is managing relationships, and then of course you have to deliver and produce something that they're happy with and you're happy with. But yeah, I mean, I think it's in the prep. It's all about good prep. Same with this
So it
film.
looks
We did a lot of prep.
it looks like the agency that you were director of content was acquired by Capital One. Did they wanna have one voice, your voice doing all of their content as part of that? Was that part of the thought process there?
No, I don't think, I'm not really in a position to say why that they were buying the business that I worked with, and so I was
Okay.
managing content within that business, and so as a result, I've now working with them whilst Capital One are like an owner of the business. But yeah, by no means I'm like
But they
kind of,
must like your voice. So do you think, so I'll ask it more generally then. So do you feel that brands should take on a voice, like a trusted voice? Do you think the whole thing about brands sending out bids and then getting competition and everything, what's the best way forward for somebody working in brand work to develop their voice and then have it be appreciated by all over? Because you don't just say, "Hey, I wanna do brand work for luxury brands." That took step A, B, C, D for you to be able to do that. So how do you create that sort of voice that resonates with top brands, whatever company it may be?
yeah, I think it's all about, a lot of it's very holistic in the journey. It's building relationships, and so when you build a great relationship with a client, they'll tend to keep working with you. So when you start understanding their brand and what the brand needs, who their customer is, and talking their language, like, there's a real language to it. It feels very different to narrative. It's just about nurturing great relationships and understanding the product and the customer and that journey, and then working in collaboration with them on what their needs are as a business and meeting those objectives. And yeah, I think having a singular voice is always a great thing. Like with any brand, most of the brands that do very well, why it's like, why would creative, all these leading fashion houses around the world, why they choose to work with
Exactly.
individual creative directors? And it's because then there's a single threaded narrative for aesthetics. And so I do think it's great to have a singular vision, but we are living in a kind of world where content is almost like some commodity. It's produced at such a crazy rate. It's everywhere. And there's an argument about quality versus quantity that's probably another
Right.
conversation to have. I'm always in the camp of quality over quantity. There's these algorithms that brands need to hit, and so cadence of content is very important, and so that's why there's so much content being produced today. But yeah, I think seeing that there are certain like commercials that will stand the test of time, like Jonathan Glazer's Guinness commercial with the horses. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah,
1000%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
great commercials are incredible. A lot of car brands have such wonderful ads. Like they tell they're short films. Some of them they're so good.
So you're obviously bringing this brilliance to CLOUT. So why Hollyshorts, and what kind of knowledge did you take from doing brand work, setting up campaigns? Did you bring to all these different arrangements that you've had for this short film? I feel it's more than what a normal short film director would be able to do.
Yeah, probably to echo my previous point is it's all been in the prep. Holly
Prep,
Short,
yeah,
we submitted to a lot of festivals. Holly Shorts was one of the festivals that came in, and we've been here all week. It's been a lot of fun meeting
that's
some
awesome.
filmmakers. But I guess what got us here is that I can't take the credit for everything because making anything in this industry takes an army of people, very talented people and who come together to tell a great story. But there's so much talent that goes into it, and so everyone on our team I was so lucky to assemble such an incredible crew for this. So good, and so you're only as good as the people that you're working with, and so it's very much a collective collaboration amongst yourself and the whole crew. And I guess my role was to set the vision, and then to let people that are better than you help you realize that. And I feel like when you've assembled your crew and your team, it's all about
Yeah,
prep as much as you can possibly think to prep. It's not just about putting a shot list together. It's thinking about the thematic details of the story and the narrative beats. And if when you're working with people that truly love cinema, like the real cinephiles, you'll spend days just talking about stuff that no one will ever see or get in the film. But
yeah,
you as filmmakers know that you've put this attention into it and this detail into it. There will be people that see it, of course. There's
right.
nothing I love more than films when there's Easter eggs throughout the color palette and that are foreshadowing the narrative beats of something that's going to happen later on. There's really small things. We've put a few of them in ourselves. I don't know if you saw it, but when Oscar's brushing his teeth, as he bends down to spit the toothpaste out, his ghost is staring back at him in the mirror.
I
Uh,
saw that. That was amazing shot.
yeah, I'm glad you saw that because it's very quick. And then he's even silly things when he's handed an orange by his mum. There's a lot of films that have the oranges represent death or something bad that's going to happen to that character. So just small little things like that I love. And so when we were in prep for this project, myself and the production designer and the cinematographer, we spent a lot of time choosing how we were going to craft this story. And so, yeah, I think all of us are extremely proud of what we've produced. And it's great to finally get it out into the real world and start sharing it with people.
I love that. If anybody takes anything away from this discussion, it's prep, and it just shows you were 5 minutes early to this. That's rare, actually, for people to be early, and I think now I know why, right? You probably have everything mapped out for your day, you prepare everything, and that leaves almost nothing to change. Shit still happens, no question, but that when you prep, it probably leaves it takes down the percentage that leaves to chance of something going wrong.
Absolutely. When you prep enough, it gives you the confidence to dance to the rhythm and work.
Ooh, I love that.
But these things happen. As you say, shit happens. I don't think I've ever done a project in my entire life where there's not fires to put out.
Right.
It's nature of the beast. And so the more you're prepared, the more ready you are for that moment. And sometimes, a lot of the time, those fires turn into magic because when
Yeah.
you're forced to do something you weren't expecting, you're forced to be more creative in that moment. And that's when things happen that you weren't expecting to happen, but it's that kind of raw moment that actually is probably better than you could have ever imagined it to have been, and you couldn't have prepped for it. It was some like divine intervention.
Love that, Jordan. So, I imagine you are prepping for your next project. Can you talk about what's next? And are you based in the UK? Is that a great place for an independent filmmaker?
Yeah, I am based in the UK, based in West London. It is a great place for independent cinema, the UK. A lot of stuff's being made there. A lot of American shows are being shot there for the very reason for there's great tax breaks available to filmmakers, especially independent filmmakers. Yeah, anyone that wants to make films in the UK. That's not to say it's easy, it's extremely difficult, but the it's been set up to to provide opportunity to young aspiring filmmakers. In regards to the next project, we are deep in prep on that at the moment. It's actually trying something new, a new challenge, which is theatre. Never done it before. I did it as a young boy, acting, but never written or directed a theatre show myself. I love a challenge. I love something new. Keeps me really excited. But yeah, working with raising some money for the British Arts Council at the moment to put that on in London, probably early next year.
Wow.
But that was a really the story is very personal to me. It's called Triage, and it was like Christmas 2022. I was in Cornwall with family because I'm originally from Cornwall. I ended up in the hospital. I was fine, totally fine. The reason why it's called triage is because I ended up being there for 9 hours because what was wrong with me was
Yikes.
not scary at all. But as you can imagine, on a Christmas Eve, I felt like I was in I was like in some immersive theatre show, and I was just watching all this wild scenes play out in front of me, and so I just started taking notes, and my sister's an actress, and she was at drama school at the time, and on the long journey home, I started telling her about everything that was going on. She was, "Oh my god, this is a play. Like, this could be a play because it's all set in one location, which is an emergency room, waiting room." And so anyway, I started just crafting that into a show, like a script, and now I've drafted it out, and the reception's been great, and I've even started looking at adapting it into an independent feature film, which
That
could be
sounds amazing.
yeah, great. Again, just need to just try and convince some people with money to help us make it.
And to do the prep. So I conclude the podcast by throwing a curveball. So I'm sorry that you don't have the prep for this, but so it's an indie film podcast. One of the things that I love doing, and most of my guests love doing, is hyping other people's projects because, as we've talked about, it's so hard to get things made. If at Hollyshorts or if at any other time, have you seen a film or know of a filmmaker that you wish more people knew about?
Yeah, we love a
Kind of
curveball.
a tough one.
There's
I know
actually
for a guy who loved prep so much.
yeah, there's a filmmaker called Nick Rowland. He's a friend of a friend. I have met him before. A friend of mine who was actually out with me right here in Hollyshorts, and he was a co-writer on this film. It's called Tristan Thomas. He went to university with this guy, as did some other friends. He wrote and directed a film called Calm with Horses with Barry Keoghan and I forget the other actor's name, but it was a brilliant movie, and more people should watch it. Cosmo Jarvis, that was his name. He was the lead actually in the oh god, no, Cosmo Jarvis. In Shogun. I don't know if you watched Shogun, the TV show.
Oh, I loved it.
It was epic. I loved it. He was like his leading man energy in that was so cool. He had this Robinson Crusoe like British kind of accent going on. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. But he's one of the leads in that film Come with Horses. But Nick Rowland's just got another film out with Taron Egerton at the moment called She Rides Shotgun. Really excited to see it. The trailer looks epic, and it's the kind of film that I think more than anything, he makes the films that I really want to make myself. So that's probably
Right.
why I'm competing him. And so if anyone hasn't watched his stuff, it's worth checking him out. His name's Nick Rowland, also from the UK. And he's actually got his films in the cinemas now. It's called She Rides Shotgun.
Loved it. Hit it out of the park, even though it was a curveball. Jordan Murphy Doidge, this has been so incredible. I love Clout. I love to see the experience that people are going to have watching it and the impact it's going to have in the UK, internationally, on kids. I think what you're doing is so important. And I think it, honestly, I don't say this lightly, but I think it'll save lives, what you're doing. I appreciate all of that. And I appreciate you joining me today on the podcast.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.